Welcome back to Southpaw Picks, and you're here with your host Charles, and this is UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Muhammad, and we are coming off a phenomenal week where we go 8-4 in our predictions. Our public parlays do not hit, but all of our straight shots hit, putting our total up 2.3 units for last week, and a whole of 2022 up 21 units. We're just cruising, guys. We're destroying it. We're running through these cards. I'm picking at a 63% clip. So if you guys are on board, we are cashing out big. Now, this is a 14 fight card. You know, I would give it a C- as far as entertainment value. A lot of debuting guys, a lot of low-level fights here. So we're going to do our best to keep things safe. Once we get to the point where we're up 20 units, we got to move meticulously and we got to move smart to carry that to 30 units and continue to progress. With that being said, there are spots that I like on this card, but some of them have been blown up now. I usually do videos on a Friday, so by the time I'm getting you these lines, they have changed. So when you see the parlays I post, they will have lines that were hit earlier in the week. And I'll maybe release some of those picks maybe on Instagram if I'm if I'm placing a bet earlier so you guys can get to them. So unfortunately here some of the lines have been steamed out, but we'll just jump right into it, and we'll still bring home some bacon. You can still get some good return on your investment on these picks. But let's kick it off on the main event, where we got a welterweight bout, title contention. We got Vicente Luque versus Belal Muhammad, and these are two high-level welterweights in the division. Vicente Luque winning 4 out of his last 5. Belal Muhammad also on a hefty win streak on his own. Now, this is a rematch. A fight where we seen, not too much in the first fight. The fight really just started getting going, and Luque hits Belal with a counter, puts him to sleep. Now, a lot has changed since that first matchup. These guys have gone on their own paths, and they've done a great job. Now, we have Vicente Luque, who for me has been someone who's just been cashing tickets for me left, right, and center. And a guy in Belal who, I've been on him in some fights, and I've been against him in other fights. So, this is one of those situations where I had to really dig deep into the strength of schedule, taking a lot of factors as far as improvement goes, and the danger levels that's presented here. These guys have a lot of footage just for us to break into, and these are the fights that, me as a capper, I tend to do the best on. So, this is a close fight. In my opinion, I just believe the Muay Thai, the heavy hands of Vicente Luque are going to keep Belal Muhammad on his back foot, and he won't be closing the distance as he's done to in his last few opponents. And I also do believe the wrestling game that we see from Belal Muhammad that everybody is, praising is going to be nullified here by the threatening chokes of Vicente Luque. This is going to be a 5-round MMA fight, and neither guy has gone 5 rounds before in the UFC. And the style that Vicente Luque does bring, heavy pressure. You wonder if it's going to carry out through 25 minutes. We'll see. 3-round fight, this is an easy Luque spot, but because of 25 rounds, it does lead, you to question, will Luque be able to continue that pace the 25 minutes? But I'm trusting in his skill set. I'm trusting in his danger factor. I think he gets the finish here on Belal Muhammad. 2nd round, 3rd round KO. Pretty much of the same as we've seen in the first fight. So I'm going with Vicente, the silent assassin, Luque, and he's going to move on up. And I think he challenges for the belt at some point. Moving on down here to the co-main event, we got 2 debutantes coming off the Contender Series with Caio, Borralho, and Omargadzhiev. And, both guys coming off the Contender Series. This is a fight that, it's kind of a let me see. You got Caio 10-1, and you got García 13-0. Both guys I bet on in the Dana White Contender Series, and both of them won for me. How does their skill set match up? So early in their career, it's very, very difficult here. García is a heavy pressure wrestler, very familiar to some of the Dagestani fighters you see. A lot of finishes. You don't know how well his gas tank will stretch out into certain lengths of the fight. And Caio Borralho has a very bouncy, karate-esque type skill set, on his toes, straight punches, and very unorthodox. He does have a bit of a grappling background as well, but we haven't been able to really see it tested at the highest level. For me, an undefeated Russian at -140, there's something wrong with that. You know how we pay a lot of money on these Russian taxes when it comes to MMA betting, especially someone that's undefeated. And that goes to show you that there's a bit of, a bit of concern as far as the betting community goes. Most people jump on a line like this, and maybe it's because he's not fighting out of Dagestan, he's fighting out of Matashia, Russia, and maybe their pressure isn't the same. Now, I'm going to have to lean on Kai Barajo, the natural, and take a shot here as a slight dog. I feel like if this guy was really legit, the line would be bugging out. And as a guy that I've won 2 bets with in Kai, I got to go with him, Kai Barajo. And I'm going to go with a win by unanimous decision. I think it's a split decision, and we see both these young talents showcase a lot of skills. Moving on down, we got Andre Fialho versus Miguel Caramel Thunder Baeza. Now, Andre Fialho made his UFC debut against Michel Pereira on short notice, and he looked very good. He's got heavy hands, great boxing combinations, and very, very, very dedicated pressure fighter, always going forward, doesn't take a backstab. Will eat a lot of shots, but eat shots to give shots. He's training over there at Sanford MMA. Great gym. Now, Miguel Baeza is someone who I have bet on in every one of his fights in the UFC. And I'm 4-0. I bet against him twice, and I was correct. And I bet on him twice, and I'm correct. This fight, to me, is a little dangerous just because of the considerable fact that he was a 10-0 fighter, and now he's lost 2 in a row. And, someone who shows a lot of skills in there, but I do feel like his commitment to throwing low calf kicks for so long in a fight has been able for guys to catch on and get him caught. He does have great submission skills. He does have clean boxing, and he does have a good striking skill set. Where he's lacking is his defensive ability, and Fialho has strong, powering hooks. I can see why a lot of people want to take the shot of the dog here. It is very tempting. It is very tempting. But because of the style Andre Fialho has, I'm gonna give Baeza the chance here as a guy who's been 4-0 on Baeza picks. I'm gonna give Baeza the opportunity here to get off this calf kick early enough that he really disrupts Fialho's power, and I'm also gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he's made the improvements. He's got caught twice in a row in fights that he probably could have won if he just made better decisions. He's taken some time off. It's a very similar fighter he's facing to his last opponent, so as that game plan was going well, and then it was going well until it wasn't, I'm going to say he hangs in here, sticks out the jab, beats up the lead leg, and wins a competitive decision, very, very close, and I'll say he get away with the win. I'm going with Miguel Baeza, Caramel Thunder, to bounce back and snap this losing streak and take care of Andre Fialho. Moving on down, we got a bantamweight scrap. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Yanan Wu. And Yanan Mulan Wu, very underwhelming fighter here. Not going to get into it too much. This is a squash match. The UFC is ready to get rid of Yanan Wu. They're ready to give Bueno Silva a win to beef up her record. She's been in there with a lot of tough girls. She's put on a show. She's been very competitive. She's mean. She's nasty. She's somebody the UFC wants to keep around. So this is a bit of a layup for her. No weight cut. She's coming up on bantamweight. I think she's the physically stronger opponent. She's got the grappling ability, and she's got heavy hands. But at -400, hard to play her unless you think that she can get it done inside the distance. Yanan was a bit of a tough cookie. And to me, the only bet that's logical here is, maybe Yanan can somehow keep it close and win a crazy split decision. But I'm going to go with Shatara. I'm going to go with Mayra Bueno Silva, and I think she gets this done via rear naked choke in the 3rd round. Moving on down, we got Pat Sabatini versus TJ Laramie out of Canada. Pat Sabatini has just been a money-making train for me. Got me some decent underdog spots, and he's pulled up on as the favorite. TJ Laramie got into the UFC. I bet against him with Derek Minner. He got the job done very quick, and that was more of a bet that I used just as a feeler against a debutant opponent. Now, Pat Sabatini is a guy that's on a roll right now. He's 7 years older to TJ Laramie. They got very similar styles when it comes to what they want to do, but Pat Sabatini is just further ahead and more of a jiu-jitsu specialist than a Russell boxer. I think Laramie will be a bit quicker in the spot, but I do believe Pat Sabatini will have the ability to wrestle him down, get him into good positions, advantageous positions, maybe take the back, get some nasty ground and pound, and I think he gets the rear naked choke. I can see him get it in the first round, but I'm going to say second round finish for Pat Sabatini. I think he's on a different level, a guy that hasn't lost, and let's take a quick look. I know he had the arm injury, and I won't consider that a loss. He just dislocated his elbow. But this is talking about a guy that hasn't lost in, what, 4 years, right? 4 years he hasn't lost, and even that was a split decision to a relatively competitive guy in the space. So I'm going to go with Pat Sabatini, and I'm going to expect him to get it done via rear naked choke. Moving on down here. Still on the main card. We look like we got a 6-fight main card here. Moving on down, we got a short notice replacement here in this match, but we got Mounir Lazzez versus Ange Loosa. Ange Loosa, now, I want to start with him. He's taking this fight on short notice. He fought 2 weeks prior in a lower level promotion. I think it was ex-MMA. I had taken a shot on him on the Contender Series where he lost to Jack Della Maddalena, and I lost that bet. And I was also impressed on the skill set that Jack Della Maddalena showcased, that in his next fight going forward, I was so confident in him that I was loading up on him to get the win. Ange Loosa put on a great scrap. It was very, very back and forth. He has heavy hands. He has the ability to grapple. And even though he was slowing down a bit, I feel that Jack is a very high-level opponent. Now, Mounir Lazzez is a difficult one. His only win coming against Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, which, is not looking too good these days at the way he gasses out. And then he completely gets crumbled by body shots by Worley Alvarez, a play that I put a lot of money on and lost, actually, in the first round. It was devastating. Nasty body shots to the core. It broke Lazzez. Now, these are two guys that I've actually bet on and come up short with. 1-1 with Lazzez and 0-for-1 here at Loosa. The short notice nature of it makes me have a bit of, hesitancy to get involved because I just don't have a good read on these guys. I gotta go with Mounir Lazzez just based on the short notice factor of Loosa stepping in here. Even though it's been 2 weeks, I don't know what type of damage he may have accumulated just to get the opportunity to be in the UFC. Lazzez has a 2-inch reach advantage. He has a couple inches in height. He's been doing a training camp here not here, but over there in Extreme Couture. I gotta go with the guy that's been prepared. I feel like this fight could be close. I feel like Loosa could get the takedowns and really make this fight interesting, but I just don't know if he's really been in shape. You had to fight 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you took a break from training and relaxed and tried to heal your body, or if you got back to work. It's not like we're hearing from him through the interview circuit. I'm going to have to just go with Mounir Lazzez and hope he doesn't get hit with body shots and crumble over. But, the bet to make here is Loosa as the dog. But prediction-wise, I'm going to say Lazzez stretches out here and wins a decision. Moving on down, we got Devin Brown Bear Clark versus William Nightmare. My goodness, William Knight came in the scale 250 pounds. He's massive. He usually fights at light heavyweight, 205. And if you really think about it, it's kind of shocking that he's made the number. He came up short, missing weight by the most amount in history, 13 pounds for a 205 fight, and now he's just rolling in here at 250. I see him on his Instagram. He's benching 500 pounds. He's strong, but I don't see how that helps him here in the fight game. But luckily for him, he has a very come see, come saw type of fighter in Devin Clark who, has the ability to wrestle, but doesn't like to get hit. Can definitely get bullied around in the cage. And has very, very, very low IQ mistakes when it comes to the fighting. But the competition he's been in there with, right? A loss to Ryan Spann, ranked opponent. A loss to Anthony Smith by submission, ranked opponent. A loss to Ian Kuntalaba, who should be ranked for the most part, and picking up wins over Menfield and Daquan Townsend. Now, Devin Clark weighed in at 223. William Nightmare, 250. 30 pounds more William Knight weighs This is going to be a wrestling exchange. William Knight has good counter wrestling. Although Devin Clark is the better, I guess, more well-rounded fighter here, would have a wrestling background, it is very difficult for me to see an avenue where he wins against a guy that has 30 pounds on him, who's physically strong and good at counter wrestling. Reluctantly so, because this is a mess of a match here. Both guys who don't usually fight at heavyweight but are taking the fight at heavyweight. I'm going to go with William Knight. I'm going to go with this physical freak here, and I'm going to say he wins by stoppage via ground and pound. Devin Clark shoots a takedown and can't get the big boy down, and he just presses his heavy self right on his shoulder blade, gets him down, and starts hammering blows. The ref sees enough because they don't want to see this black-on-black crime, and I'm going to say William Nightmare for the win by TKO. Moving on down, we got a bantamweight scrap here. Lina Länsberg, the elbow queen, versus Pannie Kianzad, a.k.a. Bonsai. Now, Pannie Kianzad did lose her last fight, but prior to that, she was on a 4-fight win streak. She was putting money in my pocket. I had to bet against her with Raquel Pennington, and even then I was stressed out because it was close, and I felt like I was a bit of a traitor hopping off the bandwagon, but it paid off. Lina Länsberg just had a baby. She's been inactive for 2 years. She's 40 years old. Earlier in their career, Pannie Kianzad finished her via ground and pound when she only had 2 professional fights. This is years later. One's 40, one's 30. Don't overthink it. Pannie Kianzad is going to win via unanimous decision, or maybe she gets the finish like she got before. This is a parlay anchor for me. I'm back on the Kianzad train, and I expect her to get a win here and get Lina Länsberg cut. She's been gone for 2 years. She's 40. She had a baby. She's coming for a paycheck. She's not coming here to win. Pannie Kianzad by whatever she wants. Moving on down here, we got Drakkar Klose versus Brandon Jenkins. Now, Drakkar Klose, very similar to Lina Länsberg, coming off a long layoff. Actually, if you remember, he's the guy that had the stare down recently where Jeremy Stevens pushed him. He had a spine injury and he said he had concussive symptoms. Listen, Drakkar Klose is a minus 700 favorite I'm seeing. He looked horrible on the scales. He looked very drawn out. He barely, I think came in at 136 3/4, so he still missed weight. And he's going up against a guy who's much bigger than him. Now, Brandon Jenkins, not a very good fighter. Drakkar Klose, very decent fighter, been in there with great opponents, puts on a good contest against these opponents, but he doesn't look good. I wasn't going to bet this fight to begin with, but, if I'm going to take a flyer as betting, why don't you take Brandon Jenkins by KO? Maybe he shocks the world. I've seen he has some nice little flying knees, but as far as prediction goes, I got to expect that if the Drakkar Klose that we've seen 2 years ago shows up even 50% of the man he is, he's still good enough to beat Brandon Jenkins, but I'm not betting this. Don't want to get involved. Drakkar Klose by unanimous decision. Moving on down, because, we got a 14-fight card, but definitely some sketchy spots on here, but I love it. Dumpster diving is my favorite thing to do on these UFC cards. Moving on down, we got a lightweight bout between Rafa García versus Jesse Ronson. Jesse Ronson is coming back after a win, even though it says no contest, where he put the pause on Nicholas Dalby, KOs him, and clubs and subs him. Gets caught by USADA using a banned substance. Now, he fights out of London, Ontario. That fight was at welterweight, so now he's dropping to his original weight class where he fought in the UFC prior. Now, we got a guy here in Rafa García who, who's been an enigma as far as the gambling community is concerned. He's been highly favored in a lot of fights and has dropped the ball in some of them. I hopped on board with his fight against Natan Levy, the debutant fighter. And, it was very close, but I felt that Natan Levy guy was very, very skilled. And I just wanted to go with a guy that had high pressure, high pacing, and great wrestling against the karate fighter. Now we're going up against a guy in Jesse Ronson who has very clean striking, good heavy hands. He's the body snatcher for a reason, as they say. He's going to go to the body. He's going to try and break down Rafa García. My only thing is, Rafa García is 8 years younger. He's constantly improving. He does fight very well when it comes to trying to win minutes in the fight, when it comes to boxing on top and taking the fight to the ground. There's been a couple times in these fights where we've really seen him look tired, but I feel like it's improving. And a guy that I know has a tough chin and is not going to get subbed, right? All these fights have been going to decision. I'm going to side with Rafa Garcia here. I know a lot of guys are leaning with Jesse Ronson, and I can see the angle. I thought about it myself when he was dog money, but now that the fight's really closed in, I'm going to go with the younger fighter in lightweight that is constantly improving, has the ability to win minutes, and has the ability to dictate where this fight goes. If he wants to take the fight to the floor, I believe he could get to the floor. He is at a disadvantage with the hands, but it's not that huge. I mean, Ronson is a cleaner boxer, but Garcia does wing heavy hooks, and he could tag up Ronson enough to get the takedown. And we'll see. He's 36, and he's making his jump right down to lightweight. He hasn't done this in a long time. He was on steroids. He's going to be off the steroids. It's going to be very interesting to see the fighter that shows up here. I'm going to go Rafa Garcia, despite my first instinct earlier in the week, and I'm going to say that he wins via unanimous decision. Moving on down here, we got Huggy Bear, Chris Barnett, a.k.a. Beast Boy, versus Martin Buday. Buday looked awesome coming off the Contender Series, where, he pinned up, what's his name, Lorenzo Hood, I believe? Yeah, Lorenzo Hood, where he pinned up Lorenzo Hood to the side of the octagon and just completely devastated him with knees to the quad over and over again repetitively. He's a big boy. He knows how to use his weight. Not the most talented heavyweight, but at 9-1, he's been improving. He's 30 years old, very young in the game, and he's going up against a guy in Chris Barnett, who's kind of exciting, but more of a circus act here. 5'9", and he has to cut down to the heavyweight limits. You're talking about a guy 5'9", weighing over 260 pounds, can't be healthy, versus a guy 6'4", weighing 260, someone more filled in for the frame. I do believe Martin is just going to lean on him. It's going to be a sloppy slugfest. He's going to pin Beast Boy to the cage, stop Beast Boy from doing those spinning kicks and throwing heavy shots, and just pretty much bully him and show him he's the real heavyweight in this octagon. It's a small octagon. Chris Barnett's not going to have the ability to create space to land those crazy kicks, and I think Buday just kind of wears on him and gets the unanimous decision here. I like Buday, and he's a play I'm looking at this weekend. The line is kind of getting stretched out. Unfortunately, I don't think you're going to get him at the price I got him for, but still worth a worthy parlay piece. Moving on down, we have another short notice replacement fight here. We have Trey Ogden versus Jordan the Monkey King Levitt. I'm just going to get into this real early. We got Trey Ogden coming off of winning 4 out of his last 5 fights. None of them in the UFC, all regional scene fights, but up against decent talent. And we got another guy in the Monkey King here. Submission win off Matt Sales, coming off a long layoff. And then we have the loss to Claudia Puelles, where I got Puelles as a decent dog. I don't really respect the skill set of Jordan Levitt. I don't think he's that good of a striker. And I do think his jiu-jitsu is a bit overrated. I do believe if he has the absolute advantage in a match where it's just completely striker grappler, that he can really showcase it. But when other people have the ability to counter-wrestle him and parlayed with just slightly better striking, which I do believe that I could get off the couch here and strike better than Jordan Levitt, I can't bet him. He's someone I can't have my money on. I've seen him slow down in fights as well. And even though Trey Ogden has taken this fight on short notice, he fights out of Glory Fitness. He was training for a grappling tournament prior to this fight. He showed up on the scale and he looked great. He looked like the bigger man. He looked like the thicker man. And he looked like the guy who, no offense, but, more of a cage fighter here. More of an experienced MMA artist. 15-4, nearly double the MMA experience. Trey Ogden, I love the spot. He came in as a dog. He's already been bet to a favorite, and I expect him to run away with this. Keep the fight on the feet, negate all Jordan Levitt's desperate attempts at bringing the fight to the ground, and just piece him up from range. This can easily be a walk in the park for Trey Ogden, and I expect him to take care of this in his UFC debut. Trey Ogden by unanimous decision. Moving on down here, we got a strawweight bout between two girls that have been pretty underwhelming here. We got Sam Page Hughes versus Estela Nunes. Estela Nunes came in. I put some money on her against Carmelose, and Carmelose really dominated her with the grappling and got the rear naked choke. But I'm just going to put that aside. UFC debut. Carmelose is a physical freak. And then on the other hand, we got Sam Hughes was lost 4 out of her last 5, but all up against UFC opponents. You can see Vanessa Demopoulos, Tisha Torres, Loma Lookboomy, and lastly, Luana Pinera. Now, she's a very tough girl, this Sam Hughes. Likes to stay in your face, very physical, okay boxing, but she really wants to push you against the cage and get her grappling going. Estela Nunes did showcase a weakness in both her losses to people that could grapple here. Estela is a 2-1 favorite. She's got clean boxing, good low kicks. She's got a very, very decorated Muay Thai record. So she definitely has the striking advantage here. Sam Hughes, to me, has the grappling advantage here. We got a girl in Sam Hughes who I believe is extremely tough. And I think she could hang around long enough to make this fight very dirty and very close. I can't bet Estela Nunes at this minus 200 spot. I do think Sam Hughes is the spot to make the pick here. And I think I'm going to go with Estela Nunes by decision, but I'll probably sprinkle a little change on Sam Hughes by decision for the upset. But I'm going to go with the credentialed Muay Thai striker. I'm going to make the prediction that she somehow shows her, her high level of martial arts, keeps it in her range, and maybe Sam Hughes eats too much shots and makes it close and the judges just sway her way. But at the price they're offering, I know the type of dog Sam Hughes is. I think she's someone that's going to fight for your money in there if you do sprinkle on her, and she could edge it both ways. This is a close decision, and one girl is a minus 200 favorite. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say it. Sam Hughes by unanimous decision. Lock it up. I'm going to go with the dog. I'm going to be picking her anyways, so we're going to put my prediction record on the line on this bet here. Sam Hughes by unanimous decision, and she gets the upset just by being more of a dog in there. Moving on down to the prelim opener, we got Hailey Alatang versus Kevin Crash Kroom. Very low level, 14-8, 21-14, which has been obviously the trend, the storyline for this card. 14 fights, but a lot of guys that you really wouldn't feel comfortable putting your money on in other spots. So we gotta go light. We gotta take care of our bankroll here. Hailey Alatang is a Russell boxer from China. Very underwhelming as far as I'm concerned. Last fight he was winning, had multiple cage grabs, and ended up turning the fight into a draw. I wasn't involved, but anybody that was involved had that bet won, and watched Alatang just hold onto the cage so many times that he lost a point. Kevin Kroom is a guy that starts incredibly hot. Journeyman, he has the ability to win, but he has the ability to lose at the same time. Easily taken down. He gets hit a lot, but he does put on a pace and basically scraps in there. He's a brawler. He's an absolute brawler. Has a nasty guillotine choke and throws decent straight shots down the pipe. And he will have, if I'm not mistaken, nearly a 7-inch reach advantage and 6 inches in height. But this is the first time that he's dropping down to bantamweight in a long time. Both his fights in the UFC, one at lightweight, one at featherweight, and now one at bantamweight. So you understand how difficult it could be to really gauge the type of Kevin Kroom we're going to get. This is the absolute no bet here. Hailey Alatang is a minus 180 in this spot. I don't know how you could justify that. I'm going to go with Kevin Kroom here as the underdog here. 7 inches in height, 6 inches in reach, two losses in a row. As far as I'm concerned, understands the rules. It won't be pulling on the cage and losing points. And I do believe, because Alatang most likely will try and wrestle here, that the guillotine will be available for Kevin Kroom. I like him in this spot as an underdog, and I'm going with Kevin Crash Kroom. And that is it. 14 fights down, guys. A lot of these guys just mostly regional tape available and Dana White Contender Series fights available. Do not go too crazy with your bankroll. Stay in the safe spots. A guy like Vicente Luque, I'm trusting him with my money. He's a proven guy. He's always come through for me, and I think he's just going to continue to climb with the ladder. I don't think Belal Muhammad is on that level. As good as he is, Vicente Luque is a pick we're going with here. Miguel Baeza is something I might talk myself into later, but something we could consider. Pat Sabatini, I think he gets the W by rear naked choke. Love that spot. Pannie Kianzad, Lina Länsberg showing up for a paycheck, and she only wants half of it. Pannie Kianzad is a lock to me. Rafa García, close fight. Probably shouldn't get involved, but I'm going to go with the young and proven guy fighting out of Elevation Fight Team, and I'm going to say he gets the win. Not to mention, last two here in the prelim spots that I'm targeting. Martin Buday. He's the true heavyweight here. I think he wears on Chris Barnett. I think he puts him away. And then Trey Ogden. This is just a complete fade on Jordan Levitt. I believe Ogden has the skill to beat him. And there's a lot of guys that I'll fade Jordan Levitt over and take to beat him. And with that being said, once again, welcome to Southpaw Picks. I'm going to put the parlays up here as I've been breaking out these last few fights, so you guys can follow the public parlay of the week. There will be some straight shots here. I like a straight shot on Sam Hughes as the dog, and a straight shots on Kevin Kroom as the dog, and William Knight. How can I forget William Knight? But other than that, stay safe with your picks. Don't invest too heavy on this one. Just stay to the guys you know. If there was really one absolute hammer lock that I'm prescribing to everybody, it'd be Vicente Luque, because he's just an all reliable, dangerous finisher, and we've seen a lot from him. We know who he is. But with that being said, thank you again for watching Southpaw Picks. See you next week. Catch you later.